is being responsible for the policing policy. The second of which is being responsible for policing needs. So, would you say the directives of the 31st qualify to be a policing policy, or they are just policing needs?
Or they qualify to be what? Second one?
Policing needs. Section 206 speaks about policing policy and policing needs. So, does it qualify as a policing policy or a policing needs?
The directives are linked to Section 207 too, because it talks about policing policy. And of course in 6 there's also policing needs, but in 207 too, there's also the issue of directives. In other words, the Constitution talks about policing policy, but it talks about directives as well. Stand on their own as part of the duties or powers, if you like, of a minister. And therefore, it was part of the powers that can be exercised by a minister while in office, not necessarily falling within policy or policing needs, because all of them are written on their own. Policing policy is on its own. Policing needs of a province on its own, and then directives on their own.
Okay, that's fine.
That's my understanding.
So the letter is written on the spirit of 2072, not 2061.
No, but I would say in practice you can't then separate to a point of creating Chinese walls on policing policy and needs of a province. Neither can you build a Chinese wall between the two and the directives. In operationally, they are not necessarily mutually exclusive, as it were.
Okay, but I'm asking because also 2061
Yes.
actually requires you to consult provinces.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's why I was asking.
Yes.
You also, as part of your evidence, presented to the Ad Hoc Committee a new organogram that is meant to restructure the organizational design, architecture, and all those things. When was it adopted?
It was adopted in 2019.
It was adopted in 2019, not in 2025.
Pardon?
Not in 2025.
It was adopted in 2019. It was adopted in 2024.
2024.
When I was already in office, when I started looking at the organogram. So in other words, 2024 was, in broad terms, an endorsement of the work that had been done, but it now included the need to implement. But in the main, yeah, it was adopted twice.
Okay. So the restructuring of the task teams, including the PKTT, stems from the adopted organogram
of 2019.
Of 2019. Do task teams really or normally get to be part of an organizational structure, or they are just temporal arrangement?
Not at all. They are temporal arrangements, and in the case of National Political Killings Task Team, it's regarded as a task team, which is also referred to as a project. It's time-bound. That's why after 6 months of its existence, it was assessed and it was extended. and then extended up until 2022 is because it is understood and actually a practice. The task teams are task orientated. In other words, they are created for a particular task and there's time. And in this instance, even though it was a budget, it was a project. There's not dedicated a budget, as it were. It takes from the budget that is already allocated, and you allocate it for that particular period and for those activities. Yes, it was like that.
So they are naturally not part of an organizational structure because they are project-based.
Not part of the organizational structure.
Then why does the minister use the adopted organogram as a basis for the dissolution of a task team that does not form part of that organizational structure?
It is precisely because when the structure was reviewed, it was reviewed with conscious understanding that you now you are entering an era that the task team was now operating to deal with what was emerging in KZN in particular. So inevitably, once the structure was fully operational, the structure was designed to take all those duties, and it was done consciously. It was not incidental. That's why when this structure is now fully functional, as was intended, and also intended now in 2024, signed in 2025, you will be doing more than duplication. And the problem that you are creating is the use of resources, which doesn't take into consideration that you're overstretched, but you have challenges for which you need a lot of money. You rather optimize on the money that you have and then be effective on the ground. That is the intention. That's where the correlation is.
Okay. In your directives of the 31st, amongst other reasons why you decided for the dissolution of the PKTT is that you do not think that it adds value anymore. We've already had 3 witnesses here in the Ad Hoc Committee. The first was General Mkhwanazi. He has got a complete different view from that sentiment in your letter. The second one was General Semula. He also has testified and has a complete different view from what you have averred in your letter. The third one was General Spear. General Spear actually was the one who explained more to us that these are now the political killings trends in South Africa, and they have since decreased vehemently because of the work of the political killings task team. The fourth one, who disagrees with your argument, is President Cyril Ramaphosa. He has just had a public commentary on TV where he was speaking about the PKTT and the work it did in reducing the political killings in South Africa. So I'm mentioning these 4 people because they've got a different understanding of what you say adding value in your letter. Now I want to check if the minister from appointment has been able to at least summon a progress report in respect of the work of the political killings task team, so that what informs the decision of the minister is actually the progress report that the minister would have actually received from the officials of the department, whoever is obliged to do that.
The issue of if you look at the report that was or the comments that were made by CFO, in 2024, they do indicate a monetary value on this matter. And you look at, yes, March 2024, when you look at what National Commissioner says in 2025, talking about the need to expedite the implementation now, because we're talking about implementation, it points to that. Now, on the differences, now, there's no problem with people airing their views and so on. But the fact that you cannot dispute, one is that from 2023, there's been substantial decrease of political killings. That is in the main in KZN. To a point where 2024, you speak about 7. In March 2025, you speak about 1. That's a decrease. But what is happening on the side of the budget, it's different, it's not in line. And it's all because you haven't done the justification for existence in terms of assessment. To say, let us review just like you were doing up to 2022. You are now talking about the budget. You are now talking about the budget. But the actual role is no longer as it was. The contribution, yes, that it has been a factor contributing to the decrease. No one is disputing that. But equally, it can't be disputed that the decrease, which was envisaged, together with other factors, because that's not the only factor. If you look at the climate general, even in KZN, it has changed substantially. Starting in 1996, 1994, when government no longer contributed in causing conflict among parties and people, and fighting people who are wanting democracy, when it wanted to maintain the status quo. Immediately democracy came in and led by the new government. The situation changed, and then there was gradually a decrease, then increasing. In 2018, up to 2021, you see increase in numbers. And numbers are supposed to inform you more than any other thing. So they start decreasing in 2023. Now it says to you, you are controlling